This is The Post Up with DJ Trice. I'm running my mouth on everything hot in sports, news, drama, and whatever is blowing up the timeline. Let's get into it. You already know me, it's DJ Trice, and I have got a special episode for you. We have a special guest who just wrote an awesome book about one of your favorite players, big player in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark. But let me give you some of her accolades. Christine Brennan is an award-winning sports journalist, USA Today columnist, and best-selling author whose groundbreaking work has spanned over 4 decades. She's a trailblazer in sports media, known for her fearless reporting and deep storytelling, covering everything from the Olympics to Title IX. Today, she's joining us to talk about her latest book on her game, Caitlin Clark and the Revolution in Women's Sports, a timely and powerful look at one of the most influential athletes of our time and what her rise means for the future of the game. Christine, welcome to the show.
Hey, DJ, it's great to be on with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. I mean, yesterday, the LA Sparks just played the Indiana Fever, so it's perfect time for us to just get on the phone because fandom brought all the people from Indiana out. And I don't know if you know this about me. I am from Indiana, actually. I'm from Hammond, Indiana. I went to Purdue University, but I actually went to high school in Chicago. So I don't have many basketball ties, young life into Indiana. But growing up in Indiana, basketball was everything. So I'm sure you've discovered some things like that while researching for the book. Can you talk a little bit about like just you and fandom in general?
Oh, sure. Well, I grew up not far from you. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, Toledo proper, then the suburbs, and then went to Northwestern, of course, north of Chicago. So yep. Big Ten all the way, Purdue and Northwestern, among many other. I mean, the Big Ten now, it seems it's coast to coast. Yeah. It's gotten a little bigger Big Ten. But I grew up just loving sports at a time when girls were not encouraged to love or play sport. And yet I was so lucky, DJ, my mom and especially my dad, he was the original girl dad before we would have even had that term. Right? And so I wanted to, I'm tall, I'm 5'11" and a half. I wanted to play, I was not that tall when I was, 10 or 11, but I was pretty tall. Boys wanted to play sports with me. And that back then there was no organized soccer. Boys probably went off to Little League like in 2nd grade, 3rd grade. But other than that, we're just playing in the yard or playing in a field. So it was really, kind of fun and unorganized sports and, playing baseball, whatever. And so the boys all wanted me to play and they shooed most of the other girls away. And so I had this incredible positive feeling about sports. And then we had season tickets for University of Toledo Rockets football, Michigan football, which is Ann Arbor's just 45 minutes away from Toledo, Detroit Tigers, Toledo Mud Hens. We'd go to Chicago to visit our relatives and go to White Sox games. So I got this entire sports immersion, which is really unusual for a girl. Yeah. Growing up in the 60s and 70s, but that's what my mom and dad gave me. And I'm the oldest of 4, wasn't older brothers. It was my dad and me. And then I have 2 sisters and a younger brother. And so, that was it. And my mom and dad, especially my dad, showed me that there would be a place for me in sports and that there'd be, girls could play sports. So he was, how far ahead of his time was he?
So far. 3 decades because, I grew up in the 90s and I was one of the girls who played baseball. So I started in T-ball when I was like 4 years old. I was big for my age. So of course I just kept going. Right. And I got to this part where it was like pony league time, right? You get to that graduation of Little League before Monique and like all the girls who have trailblazed past that. And I was just kicked out. It was just like no place for me to go. And I was forced to play softball, which is an entirely different sport. So like the inequity in sports for me, I felt super early because like you said, my dad was just like that. Total immersion, except for you missed me at White Sox. Cubs, okay. Northsider. But, I had that sports background. So it's good to hear that you had this before we even, because I was 7 when the WNBA came out, which made me a Sparks fan because Chicago didn't have a team, right? So my mom got me involved and she was like, "You're a New York Liberty fan." And I was like, "This sucks, Mom. I want to be a Sparks fan." So, I had that a little bit, but it's good to hear that like your dad was cooking on it back then. And it's like, now I had a different experience. And what about the little girls now? Let's talk about what it's like your experience, my shared experience quickly here, the little girl that's growing up right now, what kind of experience is she having around fandom in sports?
It's pretty great. And, girls now, because of parents or coaches, aunts, uncles, grandparents, whoever, these girls have a feeling that sports is for them too, and that if their brother's playing, they're going to play. Even little things that weren't little, but seem little now. Like I remember the days, like they'd be, a family would be expecting a baby, and it would be kind of, you'd hear these stories. It was anecdotal, obviously, but like the guy would be the father to be would be kind of, oh man, I was hoping for a boy.
Yeah.
I got a girl. And it was kind of like, oh, I'll have to put the baseball mitt away, Well, are you kidding me? Now, that daughter, fabulous. Here we go. And so that's a real mindset. Title IX is the law, of course, signed by Richard Nixon, as you know, in 1972, opening the floodgates for girls and women to play sports. We still have a ways to go in some areas I want to talk about in a second, but a long ways in some ways. But it really was, it was kind of ignored for a while. So it's a law, but it's also a mindset. It's how the country thinks. And because of the college scholarship, now we'll see what happens with the NCAA paying athletes, what happens with Olympic sports, women's sports, men's Olympic sports. If we're just playing men's basketball and football and women's basketball, maybe volleyball, what happens. But right now, the thought of a college scholarship, it's worth what, $400,000 over the length of 4 years, probably $100,000 per year for a family. But then also now you've got NIL and you've got athletes being paid. So of course you want your daughter to play sports, and we are still failing. And we would see it with the women's soccer team, where for years that team, Brianna Scurry is a good friend. I quote her in the book. Obviously, the first Black superstar on the most famous team on earth, the women's team on earth, the U.S. women's soccer team. I think more famous than the women's basketball team, only because the soccer team actually loses. So there are more people watching it because they could lose, whereas the women's basketball team is almost too good for their own game.
Yeah.
But true. I've certainly had friends tell me that, other journalists, I'm not covering that. They're always going to win. Where with soccer, you have to go because they could lose. Anyway, Brianna Scurry and I talked about this in her book, which is terrific. She talks about this, about how that team would just have 1 or 2 Black women on that team. Thankfully now, that, as you know, that's changed. It's close to 50-50. And that brings me to Title IX. We have not yet had the success in the more urban areas, more underserved areas, which could be Black or white or Latino. I mean, I'm not making a racial judgment, but like we've won the suburbs, right? We got the suburb with the suburban girls, they're playing sports, but we are still missing so many young girls and women who need sports so much.
Yeah.
And that would be, and as we're cutting funds in our cities and high school sports are getting cut, that's terrible, because we want these girls who are not in the suburbs, either rural, underserved, or urban underserved communities, whatever the case might be. And we've got to do that. And then we also need women coaching women. We love the guys. Thank you guys. Fabulous. But every one of those openings, when a man is finished in basketball, volleyball, it's time. It's past time. And Muffet McGraw had a great, 3 or 4 minute answer at the Women's Final Four a few years ago, that if people haven't seen it, go just Google Muffet McGraw on women coaching women. It is spectacular on YouTube, about how we want our daughters and young women playing sports to see women role models, see that they could coach as well. Yeah. So 2 areas that for the next 50 years of Title IX, reaching everyone, not just the suburbs, and all races and all economic backgrounds, not just the people who can pay for the travel teams and the AAU teams. And then also women coaching women, women in leadership throughout sports.
Oh, you just hit on so many gems. So I'm going to circle back on a couple of these points, right? I just had a detailed conversation with Angel McCautry. And she was talking about just the graduating from being one of the best players at a franchise and wondering what's next and wanting to be supported as a professional athlete, but then moving into the next phase of your life, and how there's just this gap right? Like, why do you believe that these athletes who are outstanding, the Lisa Leslies, all these people can't get coaching or even front office jobs within these organizations that they've trailblazed and led at?
Yeah. Well, it's usually people hire people who look like them. I mean, we've seen that throughout probably history, right? I mean, and so most of the athletic directors are still white men, and most people running sports teams are still white men. And hey, this is not white male bashing. There've been a lot of good. They've started things. They are, my goodness, there's a lot of positives here. I mean, a good friend of mine is Joe McEwen, who's the head women's basketball coach at Northwestern. His daughter's Megan McEwen, who is, of course, on all the a great voice now on WNBA and women's college basketball broadcasts. So great family, the first family of basketball at Northwestern. Joe is going to retire at the end of the year, and there will be no one who is celebrating him more and feeling more pride for him than me. And so I love Joe. But whoever's going to, at Northwestern, whoever we're going to have replace Joe, it needs to be a woman. No reflection on Joe, no reflection on our athletic director. No, whatever. It will be 2026, and it's time to do that, right? Yes. And so, and we've had women coaches at Northwestern before, and then Joe came in. So again, he's been great. But I think, the default position was hire the guy, right? Hire the white guy.
Yep.
And that's been throughout America. And again, there's a lot of positives in that. And I'm not going to ever say there aren't, because my dad, I mean, there's an example right there.
Everybody's got a piece of it. Well, I hear what you're saying. It sounds like you're saying, listen, we've had the structure that's been going. The times have changed, and we just need to kind of look at the landscape and level set is what you're saying. And women in leadership and women's sports just makes sense. Also, I am of the opinion, and I'm going to segue in because I've got my questions here on the side. But you're hitting the nail, so I'm just going to go with it. Okay. But, it's of my opinion that the WNBA hasn't done a great job at running the business, right? And I read in some of your bodies of work that you were saying that the WNBA wasn't ready for Caitlin Clark. And I agree with that because, my friends are all like on the search for 5-star athletes and everything. They know within the freshman year of class of when Aaliyah Boston's and all these people were coming through. So it just seems very awkward to get to this point where Caitlin Clark is now here and still wearing t-shirts that says pay us what you owe us, when we've had all this time for CBA. We've had all this time to work on network distribution. Like, why is it so hard? One, I think that a lot of men believe that the product is not worth looking at. And now that Unrivaled has proven that, I think we should just charge the WNBA with saying, hey, you haven't managed the money and the business well, but take me a step farther on what you believe about like why the WNBA wasn't ready for Caitlin Clark, or what were the things that were happening that were letting you know that they weren't ready for her?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, none of this gives me joy. I've reported this, obviously I'm on a book tour. I'm talking about this a lot. I so wish this wasn't the case, right? I wish the WNBA was ready. I wish that it hadn't been Caitlin Clark. I wish it had been Maya Moore.
Yes.
My goodness. I covered Dawn Staley in the 90s at the Final Four when UVA was there, because I was working at the Washington Post and I'm out in LA covering Dawn Staley's Virginia team. I know there are people out there who either haven't read the book or just want to hate me or whatever. Go ahead. It's a free country. Do whatever you want. But if you read the book, you're going to see more on the history of the WNBA and the Black players than probably anyone has ever done in a book.
Yeah.
On the WNBA. It's certainly a book that's been on the New York Times bestseller list, which this book, thank you everyone. It has been debuted at number 2 on the Times bestseller list.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that the story is a full story, and what On Her Game is, of course, it's Caitlin Clark, but it gives you everything about what was happening. And so going back to what I was saying a moment ago, DJ, the idea of, I wish it had been Cheryl Swoops. And when people are saying, well, but Cheryl Swoops is a very big deal, or I wish it had been Maya Moore, or obviously one of the great people in our country, much less one of the great basketball players, obviously 4 titles in the WNBA, 2 with UConn. They were big names in sports. what Caitlin Clark has done is transcend sports. And she has got people who never would watch women's basketball, which would include a lot of guys who hated it. And I would hear from those guys. They would get in touch with me when I'd be on a radio show defending women's basketball, and they'd call in and they'd laugh at me in the 90s. And, oh, it's just awful. They would say everyone's rolling around on the floor, it's jump balls. They're playing below the rim, of course, and they'd just be, big jerks about it all. Right. And I would defend it, and that's okay. I can handle that. I mean, if any of this bothered me, I would have been hiding under a bed in 1982 and never come out from under the bed. So clearly that never, clearly I'm fine with it. I don't care. I mean, bring it on. I enjoy arguments, and I enjoy, talking about issues and defending my position and my thoughts and facts and whatever might be a part of it. But clearly these guys were the guys that just hated it. Well, those are the same guys now that are wearing the number 22 jerseys, not only to the game, but to the grocery store and the gas station.
Yeah. At the bars, out. Yeah.
They are so proud to be wearing a woman's sports jersey. And by the way, if you go to the Indiana Fever games, and I was around the Fever all second half of the season after the Olympic break for this book to research on her game, there are also a ton of jerseys, Kelsey Mitchell's jersey and Aaliyah Boston's jersey. And it's white people wearing those jerseys.
Yeah.
It's not just Caitlin Clark, right? So, and I saw a lot of, in fact, I interviewed some wonderful people I would run into on the sidewalk because I just talk to people as I go into the media entrance, and wonderful Black people, a man and a woman happen to be obviously Black, and they're wearing 22 jerseys and they love Caitlin Clark. And I really try to tell those stories in the book as well. So anyway, there definitely was that sense that the country was not ready for this until now. And I've had a lot of people ask me why Caitlin Clark? Why not even Paige Beckers? I mean, Paige Beckers is a great basketball player, having a great year, probably rookie of the year, but she can't sell out the 7,000 seat Dallas arena.
Yeah.
And I'm not being a jerk here. You can email me if you want, or get mad at me on Twitter, whatever, X if you want, but look it up. I just looked the last 5 games and it was like 5,000 plus, 6,000 plus, not even selling out a 7,000 seat arena. Okay. That means that Paige Beckers is not the entertainer that Caitlin Clark is. She's a great basketball player. Caitlin Clark takes it to a whole new level. She is, when she's chucking it from the parking lot and it's going in, when she is those passes, length of the floor, hitting Aaliyah Boston with I describe these in the book, a lot of them, there's these magical moments behind the back to Aaliyah Boston, the way she would find Kelsey Mitchell open for threes, and presumably, hopefully she'll get back soon from these injuries and be healthy again. That is the high wire act.
Yeah.
That is basketball, obviously, but it's really entertainment. Yeah. And that brings in a whole different crowd. And I know some people are not happy with the entire crowd it's brought in, although I don't know many leagues that can say, hey, we want this fan, but we don't want that fan.
Yeah.
And that's where I do disagree with people. I mean, no racism. If someone says something or does something racist, they should never be allowed back ever in a game, ever, ever, ever. WNBA can control that. Other leagues can control that. Terrible. Social media, Twitter, X is a cesspool.
Yep.
People hate me there. I get pummeled by Ohio State people to this day. Penn State people hate me. Okay. You got how the WNBA, which is kind of getting to your point. Sorry for the long answer, but the WNBA did not prepare these players for the moment. And you've got to be, Patrick Mahomes gets it. LeBron gets it.
Yeah.
Women get it worse than men, and Black women get it worse than white women. So how the WNBA didn't tell those players, hey, get off social media or get off X. Go ahead and do TikTok, do Instagram, do other Snapchat, whatever you want, but get off of X. Indiana Fever did that very quickly. Yeah. Because Leah Boston was getting it absolutely terrible. Because, if she missed a pass from Caitlin, people just hated her. And then, and I'm not going to say it's equal, racism is racism and there's nothing worse. Absolutely. But Caitlin Clark, there were tons and tons of Caitlin Clark haters who were also going after Caitlin Clark and her family. Caitlin said. So she got off social media. She got off X. Well, that was the best thing that ever happened to the Indiana Fever. How was the WNBA not prepared to say, hey, you know what? This is going to be absolutely insane because it's insane in the NFL. It's insane in the NBA. And it's worse for women than men, worse for Black women than white women. So no one saw this coming, right, DJ? Like, how on earth you see all of this? You see the crowds and people line up in the 4 million more watching the women's final than the men's final in the NCAA.
Yep.
And then you're just totally unprepared for this moment. Why? I asked that question in the book, and I tell stories about talking to a WNBA official. I said, you realize how big a deal this is when Caitlin Clark announced that she was, going to be in the draft. And this person, I don't name the person, but it's a WNBA official, no doubt about it. And this person says back to me, yeah, this is the biggest thing to happen to the W since Maya Moore.
Yeah.
And my next line in my book is, that was a surprising answer. Now, Maya Moore is one of the greatest, not only one of the greatest basketball players to ever live, but also one of the greatest people to ever live, right? Getting obviously a friend wrongly accused, wrongly imprisoned, out of prison, and then of course marrying him and having a child. I mean, it's one of the great stories of all time. And yay, Maya Moore. I mean, what a wonderful American, and again, young Caitlin Clark's favorite player. So we love Maya Moore, but Maya Moore never transcended it to be being talked about in the produce section of the grocery store the way Caitlin Clark is. That's a fact. I wish it were so. I wish it had happened to Maya Moore. I wish it had happened. My goodness, you can go Lisa Leslie. Yeah. Again, big names in sports.
Candace Parker.
Absolutely, Candace Parker. Terrific. Oh my gosh. And so many more. Black, mostly Black, some white, 74% Black league. I go into all of that in the book as well. I avoid nothing. I go right at all these topics and have voices, amazing voices like Dr. Harry Edwards, the great civil rights leader, Black man, dear friend, who is so critical of the WNBA for not being prepared for this moment of a Black league with a white superstar coming in. And how hard that would be for the players, even not because they're damsels in distress, just because this would be so unusual. And you can picture the workplace where you'd be, where any of us would be, a workplace, and all of a sudden forget for a moment race and just say, okay, you've been working hard for 20 years and here comes some new, everyone's in love with the new person.
Yep.
We know what that feels, how the WNBA wasn't prepared. And my answer, sorry for the long answer, that getting finally to the crux of it, I think that the W, either complete incompetence of the leadership, which is certainly a possibility, and we see that over again, sadly, in the book. Sadly, and I say that because I wish I didn't have to report this, but I do because I'm a journalist and you deal with the facts. But also, I think they probably thought the male-dominated mainstream sports media has always ignored us, has always given us short shrift, has never cared. I fought for it. Others did too. And most sports sections didn't cover it, put their intern on the WNBA, then didn't cover it when the intern was gone back at college or whatever, or did occasional coverage, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think they probably couldn't fathom that it could really happen this time.
Yeah.
And I think that is a big part of just their senses were so dulled in a sad way that they never got the coverage they deserved. And that how would it happen this time? Yeah. And so I think that's all part and parcel. Very long answer, but it's very involved.
There was so many good things in there, though. I mean, I think everything that you said kind of gives us more perspective because it adds layers to it. There's intersectionality that people just forget about. They're just, oh, she's better than, and it's like, we watch it happen with Steph Curry. People are coming from other countries to watch him shoot the basketball because he's one of the best shooters of all time. So it's just like very interesting watching Caitlin Clark integrate into the league and now being in year 2 where the dust has settled, but now we're having things that are still like new incidents with these new sex toys on the court and like just all of the weird things that probably would never happen in any other sport. And I mean that I watch NFL, and NFL has some of the nastiest fans, right? I only cover the LA Sparks, but on my YouTube channel, I cover all sports. Like I'm mostly commentary, but I run media for LA Sparks. So they get the side of me that's a little bit more, focused and all that. But I'm in the comments battling with these guys about NFL things. And it's like, they don't really respect a woman's opinion. And I'm sure you've encountered this countless amount of times, and I'm happy to take a little bit of the torch from you there. But I want to focus on some of the other things that you've covered as well in past books. You've covered like Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan. I want to know, since we're on Caitlin Clark, let's talk about how the cultural influence and media coverage compares to those caliber of athletes. Because everybody, I'm a huge LeBron fan, so I'm hearing the MJ argument all the time. So how do you personally think, after all of these things, with all the cultural influence, media, and then the pressure, how can you compare?
Yeah, I covered Tiger, as you were saying, the length of his career, and the parallels are very strong between Tiger Woods and Caitlin Clark. Now, Caitlin Clark, certainly hasn't had a long career yet. So Tiger has 15 Grand Slams, and Caitlin does not have a title, but she had an incredible rookie season. Mm-hmm. And we'll see how this plays out. I think if she gets healthy and they can make a playoff run, that'll be very interesting for sure, if Indiana can do that. But so Tiger's, almost 50 years old. He'll turn 50 in a few months. So Caitlin is clearly 23. That's different. But the parallel, for me anyway, having covered Tiger and now covered Caitlin Clark, of course, for this book, and being around her last year as I was, that there are parallels. And number one for me is, again, transcending the sport, becoming bigger than the sport, becoming a part of American culture, and truly being discussed, in places where sports is usually not talked about. Mm-hmm. The grandmothers or grandfathers who couldn't tell you the difference between a birdie and a bogey.
Yeah.
Those are the people that were rearranging their Sunday afternoons of the Masters week so that they could watch Tiger in the fourth round, in the final round of the Masters, and try to win another green jacket. That's the difference. That's where those TV ratings come from, the sky high TV ratings, because now you've got, people watching who would never be watching golf. Yeah. And the same then with women's basketball. You have got people, especially these guys we've talked about, who would never have given the time of day to women's sports, women's golf, or women's basketball. And now they are rearranging their evenings to watch Caitlin Clark's games. And I know that infuriates some people that it's only Caitlin Clark. Well, first of all, it's not only Caitlin Clark, but clearly the numbers are extraordinary for Caitlin Clark. And there's two ways for the WNBA to look at that. People can be mad that it hadn't happened sooner. And I understand that, because I was covering the W in the 90s, and I was doing my darndest to try to make sure that we were covering it and giving it its due. And then all the way, since then. And, was covering the Washington Mystics when they were in the finals a couple of years ago, I guess more than a couple now, but you know what I'm saying? So I cared very much. I understand that people are not happy about it, but how long are we going to be not happy about it?
Right.
How long are people going to be unhappy before you go, okay, A'ja Wilson, who has been the greatest player over the last few years in the league. We'll see Nafisa Collier when she gets back, and hopefully gets back soon from her injury. And she's having an amazing year, and probably is heading to the MVP, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, and you got Breanna Stewart, and you got all kinds of other great players. But let's go with A'ja Wilson. 2 years ago, All-Star voting, she had like 70,000 votes. Mm-hmm. Caitlin Clark comes in last year. Of course, Caitlin Clark gets incredible number of votes, but A'ja Wilson goes well into the hundreds of thousands. And now this year, again, Caitlin Clark with 1.2 some million votes, but A'ja Wilson now is closing in on 1 million votes.
Yeah.
The rising tide lifts all boats. That's what the men's golfers figured out very, very quickly with Tiger Woods. Yeah. They were like, who's this kid, young kid, thinks he's going to win everything. Well, he won. He won early on. Then he won the Masters like 9 months later. And all these golfers who are competitive, they were like, you know what? He's good. We want to beat him, but this is our reality. Let's make money. Let's all get better, TV deals. Let's make more money, more salary, higher prizes, prize money, bigger paydays, everything. So they understood the value of Tiger Woods. Now, there was no social media back then. Mm-hmm. If there had been social media, it would have been a little more difficult. Guys would have put stuff on social media. You would have had more back and forth. The race issue with Tiger, for sure. There would have been racist comments. Absolutely. So that was beneficial on that front, to not have social media as a part of that early Tiger Woods conversation.
Yeah.
with men's golf, with the PGA Tour and Ryder Cup and what have you. But, the big difference I see, again, social media would have changed things, but that the WNBA players have been far more reluctant to say, okay, we get it. Caitlin Clark, we'll give her due. Now, some certainly have. I mean, look at the Indiana Fever. Who doesn't want to be on the receiving end of those passes, right?
Yeah.
They love her. I mean, they may not have every moment where they're all in love, but are you kidding? I mean, the way Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin became friends, their back and forth, their positivity towards one another that I put in on her game. You're amazing. You're amazing. Just lovely. That was Caitlin's idea, that back and forth that they did every game. And I talked to Aaliyah about that. And that's in the book. Kelsey Mitchell, has grown to just love Caitlin Clark and vice versa. And Caitlin's fighting for her last year to get awards because Caitlin said, I shouldn't have gotten all the awards. Kelsey should have gotten them this year. Clearly, Kelsey's, playing great, especially without Caitlin. There are players who get it. They definitely get it. They understand it, and they want to be at the Indiana Fever. They want to, and Steph White wanted to coach her.
Yeah.
So there's positivity, but I think throw social media in, and then the fact that women's sports just have never gotten their due. Women's basketball in particular, women's tennis has, but in general, women's team sports have never been at this level before. So I think it's all just a learning curve and growing pains. But again, if there were great leadership at the WNBA, they would have handled it. Dr. Harry Edwards, again, Dr. Harry Edwards, not me. I mean, I'm saying it too, but Dr. Harry Edwards, the WNBA failed the players. That's a quote in the book. What should have done, have seminars, have Zoom calls, talk about these things, help them a little bit. Again, not because they're so needy or damsels in distress. No, but because no one had ever seen anything like this in women's team sports before. And that's where the WNBA failed. Great leadership. And I like Kathy Engelbert. Gosh, I wish I didn't have to say these words. I really do, DJ. But either you got to get with the plan. We're well into the second year of the Caitlin Clark era. And there's still craziness all over the place.
So many things happening. And to be honest, I'm right with you there. And I'm going to give you a bit of my commentary on just what I think about it. But for me, like, just one of the things that constantly frustrates me is just game scheduling. And the players have complained, but it's like, now we've got all these new fans and everybody's like, why do 3 games start at 7 p.m.? We can't watch. Like, it's almost like the WNBA doesn't want it to be success. Like, it's you're sabotaging the business almost. And I'm putting my business cap on, because what I do professionally is sponsorships for media and entertainment. I've been doing that. That's where the DJ comes from. I was a DJ for 10 years. So I've been working with brands and all these kind of things. For me, if I was a WNBA front office official and I was like, hey, here's all these millions of dollars, we're going to invest in your league, grow it. It just, all of the low hanging fruit, they haven't even tried. Like, in a league full of women, well, where's the money for women products? Like, you know what I mean? Like, league wise, to be quite honest, to support the league, we should have already been looking at an economic model that really focused and honed in on women's only exclusive brands. It took Unrivaled to, like, literally map it out for the WNBA and be like, hey, we're talking to Sephora, we're talking to TJ Maxx, and literally, like, make a little arena, build it, and now everybody's like, why are they asking for more money? They've proved that the WNBA is bad at, this was their first season. So imagine what the strategy could have been, what this could have looked like if we had focused our revenue model on the specific demographic marketing business, the clients that would be interested in women's sports. What are your thoughts around, like, the long-term brand deals and media now that Caitlin Clark is here?
Yeah, I think it's getting better. I mean, you see, for example, you mentioned TJ Maxx. TJ Maxx is now a sponsor of at least the Fever. I've been so busy on this book tour. But to do the when they come in, obviously, for the pictures as they're entering the arena, and I think we're seeing that a lot. I think also it's helpful for WNBA teams, to have Big Brother, and I say that totally affectionately, of the NBA teams. So you've got Pacers Sports and Entertainment, and they have really they had gear, they had T-shirts, they had jerseys ready. If they've run out, they seem to always have them in stock again. Their store, has got lines out there, but apparently it moves well. The Fever, you've got the Pacers, you've got the social media team, over 20 people on that digital team for Pacer Sports and Entertainment. So they are pumping out all that stuff, which is clearly the best in the league.
Yep.
I'm not saying others aren't decent, but when you've got that many people working for, in this case, the NBA team, which is, of course, owns the Fever, and they care about that team. I mean, you see that from the top down, from Mel Raines, is a woman who's in charge of the whole company, and the Simon family. And listen, hey, I'm not their PR person at all. I'm a journalist, but I've looked into this a little bit. That I write about it in the book, that Indianapolis was the perfect spot for Caitlin Clark.
It was.
I know you mentioned, going back to what we started talking about, basketball, Indiana. Indianapolis, they've hosted Super Bowls, but so many men's and women's Final Fours.
NCAA Hall of Champions is right there on the canal, right by the bridge.
Olympic trials. I have probably spent 6, 7, 8 months of my life in Indy just covering the Olympic swimming trials back in '84, Olympic track and field trials at IUPUI, now IU Indy. That was Carl Lewis, that was Flojo, that was Jackie Turner Percy in '88. Again, in the '90s, onward. So, it's the perfect place. It understands women's sports, youth sports, obviously basketball, high school, college, the whole 9 yards, men's and women's, but also the quote unquote amateur, the Olympic sports.
For sure.
And of course, that would include, basketball. So you've got all of that coming to play with Indiana. But I think the opportunity is there. One of the things I like what they're doing is this expansion. Clearly, the value of the franchises is just exploding. Yes. Also, the new TV deal is 4 times the value of the old TV deal. So there are some positives here. There definitely are some positives. Caitlin Clark is certainly the reason for most of it. Again, I'm not saying she's the only player. People seem to somehow hear that. No,
it's true.
He's the one that is got the spotlight that is now shining. And finally, these players who deserve the attention, which is why I said she should have been on the Olympic team. And that's, obviously that whole chapter, and I deal with all that and break more news and have more on the subject. But that spotlight shining on Caitlin Clark is now shining on all these players, most of them Black, who deserve the attention, never got it, and now finally are getting it. I also think this. We know that the college game is so popular, and we know the TV viewership numbers are much higher for the women's college game than the WNBA. So I'm so glad they're expanding. You're going to have more college players that then can stick around, so you don't have to cut them all. I mean, they don't cut them all, but you know what I'm saying? It's just this very situation. All these, right, there isn't room because they've got a following. These college players, they've got a following. And I'm obviously talking about Caitlin, Paige, Juju, let's hope she gets healthy and she's, great and everything moves forward with her. So many Lauren Betts, so many of these players, obviously the South Carolina players, they then come into the league and people want to watch and follow them. And so if you've got now these new teams coming in, of course, this year Golden State killing it. That's the model there.
That was the perfect NBA rollout. Exactly what you're talking about with the partnership with the NBA franchise. I think we're going to start seeing more NBA teams start to partner with their sister WNBA teams, which should have been that way. I don't know why you would ever model it. If you want to make money, you got the same colors, the Lynx and the, you know what I mean? The Lynx and the Timberwolves, just partner up.
There were a lot originally. Then the idea is branching out and having others, that having ownership groups. So you've got some that are owned and some aren't. But I do think it works. It's already an infrastructure is built in, like with the Indiana Pacers, that you then have all those people ready to rock and roll when Caitlin Clark shows up. Yeah. But I do think, again, having those college names, those big names. I mean, again, we're talking about 18.9 million watching the Iowa, South Carolina NCAA final for the women in 2024, 18.9 million. Oh my goodness, 2 million is an amazing crowd viewership, 2 million, 2.5, whatever, for the WNBA during, games, including even during the playoffs. So you see, there's so much room to grow there.
Yeah.
For viewership. And the more of those college players, like people want to watch Kate Martin play.
Mm-hmm.
She's a great player. And I quote her in the book. We had a half hour together talking all about Caitlin. It's all in the book. People, and of course, Caitlin's quoted throughout the book, and answered 40 to 50 questions that I asked her. She was great. Nothing was off limits as I talked to her over the course of press briefings and small press availabilities, et cetera. And but Kate Martin is famous because she was a teammate of Caitlin Clark at Iowa. Okay, that's great. That is a great thing. And she's got a following with people that would never have been able to tell you the name of a women's basketball player 5 years ago. Guaranteed. Never heard of Caitlin Clark at that point 5 years ago. Never heard of, I mean, they would have heard of Diana Taurasi, maybe. They would have heard of Cheryl Miller, whatever. Annie Myers, whatever. But in general, they couldn't tell you anything about them. And now these are the people who are, not only do they follow Caitlin Clark, they follow Kate Martin. And again, now they keep an eye on the Fever, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell, and so many of these players, because they've been brought into it and they like it. That is a good thing for the WNBA. And as soon and as quickly as people who want to keep the small things small, or the naysayers, as soon as they embrace that, the better. Yeah. And I think because some of them don't like me a lot, they haven't embraced it yet, DJ. Yeah. So forget me, go ahead and hate me. I don't care. But start to watch this and see what's happening, because there's a lot happening here that is very interesting and very positive for obviously the WNBA, for women's sports. But cut out the nonsense and cut out the Marina Mabry cheap shots. That's ridiculous. Marina Mabry knows better. What on earth was she doing? And kick her out right then and there. Yeah. And get better refs. And DJ, that is the one. DJ, are you available? Seriously, something needs to be done right now. We need to get better refs for the WNBA.
It is. And honestly, we can talk about refs for a while, because player safety is number one. And I think that the refs constantly put player safety in danger when they do not officiate sternly or consistently in the same ways, because it just makes the players frustrated. They let balls go on. In the NBA, fouls are called. In the WNBA, the girls are rolling around on the floor and they're like, jump ball. I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. She was fouled 5 times and you showed it on the replay. What are we reviewing here?
No, that again, this is the moment.
Yeah.
You and I are in agreement, and I'm going to guess a lot of people are going to be in agreement who are watching and listening to us. This is the moment for the WNBA. This is it. We've been waiting, as a journalist, I've been watching and covering it and caring about it. Others have too. You've cared. So many people have cared. This is it, folks. This is it. I'm not saying there won't be future Caitlin Clarks with the following that they have coming. I hope Juju Watkins is that. Yeah. Although I don't think she's been able to sell out the Southern Cal, Southern Cal arena. I'd have to check. Whatever. We need her. She needs, number one, for her, get back, be healthy, and then continue to be the magical player you are. Great role model, great whatever. You need these things to happen. But this is it. Caitlin is the one. If you keep fighting it, well, go ahead, knock yourself out. I mean, go ahead and keep fighting it.
It's a bunch of wasted energy. That's why I just stopped arguing with people in the comments.
And I've run into it on this book tour, and I've run into it sometimes where people just like, they have a preconceived notion of what this book is or something. Did you read it? Read it. I don't know that any book, well, certainly no New York Times best-selling book on the WNBA and Caitlin Clark, and has ever had the deep dive, quick deep dive, because I move you along in the book. I'm not gonna drag you into things, for 30, 40 pages. No, but give you that history of the WNBA and how it is the 74% Black league and how it started and how hard this was, and Brittany Griner and that incredible moment. I write all about it in USA Today. I put it in the book. DJ, that those players would literally, when Brittany Griner was imprisoned by Vladimir Putin, awful, terrible, just a despicable act by the Russians and by Putin, that the players it might have been the finest, and I say this in the book, might have been the finest moment in U.S. team sports history of WNBA players focusing conversations. They're asked about one thing, they want to talk about Brittany Griner. They're helping Brittany Griner's wife, Sherelle, work through it. They're meeting with President Biden. They put the 42 on the floor. They put BG on the floor. They wear her number. Everyone put on her number in the second half of the All-Star game. All of these things to focus the national media, which wanted to ignore the WNBA and has always ignored Brittany Griner until she got, arrested and imprisoned in Russia and thrown in jail in Russia in terrible conditions. But then getting her out and having her be free and having her come back and play, that is as glorious a moment as any sports league has ever had. And listen, there are going to be people who are watching us who are going to say, why did they do the deal with the bad guy for Brittany Griner and all these other things? They want to throw other things into it. I'm not going there. Brittany Griner was imprisoned for a tiny little bit of hashish oil that was prescribed and was legal in the United States. She shouldn't have had it in her luggage. Who knows what the heck was going on? It happened. There's no reason to then have this woman who's 6'9" crammed into a little jail cell, horrible, in a cage during that trial. So to get her back was a great moment for this country, and it was an absolutely spectacular moment for the WNBA. Those are the things that are in this book, and I tell those stories. And I know people are mad at me because I asked Dejanay Carrington a question and a follow-up that I would ask any male athlete. I've asked hundreds of male athletes, and was the Players Association, DJ, saying women can't handle tough questions? Is that the message the Players Association wanted to send in 2024? That is a terrible message. Terrible message that these women can't handle it. Of course they can handle it. You want the question so you can hit it out of the park, clear the air. It was a huge issue. Millions of people all over social media. Dejanay Carrington had the chance to clear the air with that question and the follow-up. And, everyone lost their minds. Well, that's just insane because you want to get the journalist question to answer it to then move on. And hopefully they've learned their lesson. That was a total failure. Unfortunately for the Players Association, I was not banned, and it was beyond embarrassing for the WNBA and the players. But the point is, again, there's so much good in this WNBA, and Caitlin Clark and those autographs and the kids and their faces after the way they break, boys and girls. I watched boys just burst into tears after they got their Caitlin Clark autograph. Girls, and what she's doing for the future, that's where it diverges from Tiger Woods. Yeah. Tiger, amazing golfer. Honored for me to have that front row seat for his entire career. He couldn't have cared less about signing autographs. He had his head down. He couldn't care less.
It's on the game.
Yeah. And that's okay. It's a free country. He can do that. But you know what? We expected so much more diversity in men's golf and women's golf. It's not there because Tiger never cared. Yeah. And, and the hope that it would become, maybe like 30% would be people of color, black golfer. Nope. Because Tiger didn't care. Well, Caitlin Clark cares. Yeah. She cares. And Caitlin Clark will have coattails. And there's going to be girls and boys. They're going to be white. They're going to be black. They're going to be mixed race. It's going to be every color, every background imaginable, wanting to play basketball because they love Caitlin Clark and because they can't believe she's just heaving it from half court and it's going in. Yeah. And that is the value, another one of the very important stories and the value of Caitlin Clark.
Christine, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for just taking some time out. I mean, I'm excited to get my hands on the book. I need to read it just so I have all the backstory. You've been doing this for 4 decades. So I appreciate the work that you've been doing, honestly, because a lot of us have been following it. You are right there on ground zero reporting back. Can you tell the people where they can find you on social media?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So C. Brennan Sports, first initial, last name, Sports. I wanted Christine Brennan, but somebody already had it. And I got to tell you, I wouldn't want to be them because I can only imagine what they get from all my fans. Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyway, C. Brennan Sports on X, on Threads, on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram. I think I just covered it all. My big ones would be X, Twitter, especially for the sports aspect of that. I know there's a lot of nonsense. It's a cesspool for sure. Politically, it can get absolutely insane, but sports good. And then certainly Instagram and Facebook, really on those for sure. Threads and then Blue Sky, certainly a little bit less. And yeah, the book is On Her Game, and you can get it anywhere. You can go online, get it at Amazon or any of those other places you buy books, or of course at your bookstore. Yeah, there it is. And it's been out for about a month. And here's the offer I will give, which I've been doing. I'll give DJ to anyone listening. Hopefully I'll be coming to your town or get a chance to meet you and sign books. And I'm not presuming that anyone needs to have my signature, but if you want my signature, if you'd like a book to be personalized, please get in touch with me either at any of those social media sites or my website, which is just my name, ChristineBrennan.com. Send me an email. Someone did this today. I've got maybe 5 or 6 already. And tell me the address and tell me how you'd like it personalized. I will do book plates, which I thought I had here, little stickers, and I'll sign them and I will mail them to you, my treat to you. And if there's a girl or a boy or a grandmother, whatever, a girl dad that wants a book and you want me to sign it, just send me that email at ChristineBrennan.com or find me on those various social media, direct message me, and I will send a book plate signed and personalized to you. I'll pay for the stamp. And that is my treat to the wonderful people who are buying this book. And if you want 5 book plates and you've got 5 books, I will be happy to send you all 5. So I'm enjoying doing that and making this a very interactive process as well. But On Her Game is just going great, and also audiobook. And Kindle version, e-version. So you can, any number of ways you can read this book or listen to the book. So again, thank you so much. And we'll get you one too, because I know you need it. I'm going
to need it for research purposes so I can quote all your stuff for my arguments in my comments on social media, believe me. All right, that's a wrap on the post up. I ran my mouth, said what I said, and now it's your turn. Drop a comment, share it, and come back tomorrow, because I'm not done talking. And make sure you follow me on social media at DJ Tricey Trice. That's at DJ TRICEY TRICE. I'll be posted up here, y'all.